Okay, now going to start again. Next topic. So, science and technology. Hypersonic weapon arm race. China tested a nuclear capable hypersonic missile. They circled the globe before speeding towards its target, demonstrating an advanced space capability caught US intelligence by surprise. So, however, China has denied that it was nuclear capable. They are the speed in exceed of 5 Mach, 5 times speed of sound, and ballistic missiles throw much faster, follow a fixed trajectory, and travel outside the atmosphere to re-enter only near impact. On the contrary, hypersonic weapons travel within the atmosphere and can maneuver midway. The above capability combined with their high speed make their detection and interception extremely difficult. So this means that radar and air defense cannot detect them till they are very close and little time to react. So there are two classes of hypersonic weapon: hypersonic glide vehicle and hypersonic cruise missile. They are powered by high speed air breathing engine or scramjet are requiring the target. Hypersonic missile are a neo class of threat because they are capable both of maneuvering and flying faster 5000 km per hour, and such missile to penetrate most missile defense and to further compress the timeline for response by nation. So in early Russia announced that it had successfully test launched the Triskon hypersonic cruise missile Barents Sea, which has target 350 km. Talking of the test, Russian President Putin declared that the tests were almost complete. Russia Navy would start, and US has active hypersonic development program, lagging behind China and Russia because US hypersonic weapon, in contrast to those Russia and China, are not being designed for use with nuclear warhead. As a result, your hypersonic weapon will likely great accuracy will be more technically challenging to develop that nuclear armed Chinese and Russia. US is now looking to accelerate program, so it is unlike to field an operational system. So the Pentagon budget request for hypersonic research for financial year 3.8 billion up from 3.2 billion is requested a year. The missile defense system additionally million for hypersonic defense. What is the status for development by the country? So number of other countries including the Australia, India, France, Germany, Japan are also developing hypersonic technology. India operates approximately 12 hypersonic tunnel and is capable of testing the Mach 30. Reportedly, India is also developing indigenous dual capable hypersonic cruise missile hypersonic technology demonstrator vehicle program successfully tested matching scramjet. In the scramjet engine, air goes inside the engine, supersonic speeds come. DRDO has set test many critical technologies such as aerodynamics configuration for hypersonic scramjet and thermostructural high temperature material separation mechanism. So debunking some of the claims surrounded hypersonic weapon physical David Wright. Hypersonic weapon may have advantage in certain scenario, but by no means do they constitute a revolution. According to this physician, many of the claim about hypersonic exaggerated and the widespread perceptions game changer has increased tension among US, Russia, China, driving a new arm race, escalating the chance of conflict. So given the rising tension between US, China, Russia, as also the worsening geopolitical situation worldwide, the focus of hypersonic weapon is only set to accelerate more countries to invest significant resource. Semiconductor and industry. So first of all, what will be the question? How will approved program help India boost semiconductor? Enumerate the practical challenge despite fiscal support and technological collaboration required propel India towards becoming the semiconductor hub. So it is the Union Cabinet recently approved a comprehensive program development sustainable semiconductor display ecosystem 76,000 crore have been incentive for every part of supply chain, including the electronic component, sub-assembly and fishery route. In total, the government of India committed support 2,30,000 crore to position India as a global hub for electronic manufacturing semiconductor foundational building block. Semiconductor chips are integral part of powertrain, chassis, safety system, advanced driver assistance system and other part of automobile. They are used more in passenger vehicle compared to commercial vehicle or two-wheeler. The move to electric vehicle has led to increased demand for chips. For example, a Ford Focus typically used roughly 300 chips, where Ford new electric vehicle can have 3,000 chips. With supply of semiconductor chips, the production in automobile is adversely impacted. So, program development of semiconductor and display manufacturing ecosystem. The program will usher in new era electronics manufacturing by providing a globally competitive package to company in semiconductor and display manufacturing as well as design, pave the way for India's technological leadership in this area of strategic importance and economic self-reliance. Semiconductor and display are the foundation of modern electronic driving the next phase of digital transformation. Semiconductor and display manufacturing is very complex and technologically intensive sector involving huge capital investment, high risk, long gestation and payback period, and rapid change in technology which requires significant and sustained investment. Given impetus to semiconductor and display manufacturing by facilitating capital support and technological collaboration. Semiconductor shortage. Was a global shortage for semiconductor chip that had started making its effect and small and medium-sized enterprises. Rise in COVID-19 is supplying countries, especially those Asia, led to disruption of production and atrocities. Winter storm in Texas, semiconductor factory and a fire at this plant, Japan. Also, relatively low margin of substrate manufacturing have led to its underinvestment. So, connect chips to the circuit boards that hold them in personal computer, made up of thin copper wires sandwiched resin and substrate, help transmit user instrument to the computer chips, and they are necessary because of ultra thin wiring, and chips can't tolerate a direct substrate manufacturing. So supply is a very tight and small distribution. So the chief executive of Intel, IBM have both said recently that the chip shortage could lower the 2 year. Due to longer lead one time between when order is placed and the shipment is delivered, the automobile sector has been forced to cut down the production. The slowing down of production by big automobile player has led to reduction in new orders and the MSME who are vendor, the sub-vendors of automobile industry are now working 8 hours and 12 hours. This has not only affected their earning but it's making them migrate to others. SMME industry coming back to normal after while recovery and coming at the time when the entire world is facing a shortage of semiconductor. Analysts said the move could go a long way in establishing the country as a global hub for electronic goods, besides creating job and attracting investment. James Webb Spatial Telescope. The James Webb Spatial Telescope, hurtled into space by the Ariane 5 rocket from European Space Agency in French Guiana, South America, costing 9.7 billion. This joint project of National Aeronautics Space, NASA, and European Space Agency and the Canadian Space Agency is billed as an next generation telescope. It is stated to unveil unseen distant part of universe and help fathom the mystery of the cosmos. After it arrives at destination, 18 telescope mirror segment will have to be aligned flawlessly. The first image, the thermal turbulence of telescopic observation, star twinkles absorbed by the thick lower atmosphere and part of spectrum such as infrared space hardly reach the ground. By placing the telescope on the high mountain top, we avoid as such much atmosphere as possible, yet the atmosphere turbulence, the super sharp image object telescope in space almost avoid the atmospheric disturbance and provide us with a clear, sharp and more profound vision. Well, the most giant ground-based telescope revealed galaxy light year. The Hubble Space Telescope has identified the fastest known galaxy, and the telescope-mounted infrared telescope, the invisible magical rays change TV remotes are infrared. They are like the visible light and radio wave part of electromagnetic spectrum. And why take an infrared telescope rather than a telescope that can see visible spectrum? Big Bang, galaxies, stars, and planets. Universe has been the constant state of expansion. As a light travels for the space, the wavelength elongate age light. The light from earliest massive young stars, nascent galaxy was predominantly vigilant and ultraviolet. However, traversing the vast stretch and infrared rays from reaching the Earth. So suppose we keep two tubs, one smaller radius and the other larger radius, open during the rain. Larger tub will collect a lot more rainwater than smaller. So 6.5 meter in diameter will collect more photons than a Hubble and will have about 7 times as much light gathering capability. Therefore, would observe object Hubble cannot detect, so it would be the seen object. Universe will bigger collecting area of Hubble and average time for light to reach the Earth. Moon, this mean moon shining bright 1.282 second, and by looking far away we look back in the time. Let us imagine the time from the Big Bang to now as a year-long calendar. In this cosmic calendar, the Big Bang occurred and would be let us see the universe as it was all the way back to January. That was when earliest stars started to shine, and the telescope can detect an object and show how it looks. The spectroscope, a key instrument, can analyze the light ray and tell us what is sheer and spectral image, understand the elemental composition, the temperature of the stellar objects. Unlike Hubble and spectroscope, which is expected to unveil elementation. So, international relationship. The Iran-US deadlock over nuclear capability. After a gap of 5 months, Iran, Russia, China, and European countries resumed negotiation in Vienna to revive the nuclear agreement known as Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, and so to restrict Iran nuclear program. As Iran has refused to hold direct talk with US European officials, which settled between the Iranian and American delegation, exchanging talking points and seeking common grounds. The agreement sought to cut Iran off its possible path to a nuclear bomb. In return for the lifting of economic sanctions, Iran maintained that its nuclear program is peaceful, a claim disputed by many international powers at the time agreement. Iran had two nuclear enrichment plants, Natanz and Fordo, that was enriching uranium at the lighter purity what's required for the civilian program, and typically low enriched uranium, which less than 5% contraction fissile isotope, is used in nuclear power plant, while uranium 20% of most purity is used in research reactor. The fuel with 90% purity is used in bombs. Centrifuge are used to enrich the uranium. Reduce the purity and stockpile. According to the 2015 deal, Iran agreed to cut its stockpile and 98% to low purity. So open to inspection were introduced. Number of centrifugal it could keep. The Iran agreed to open all the facility. International Atomic Energy Agency. So Iran reneged on the promises and decided to make a bomb. It would take at least 1 year to manufacture enough highly enriched uranium and centrifuge to do so. In return of Iran signing the agreement, the US administration under Obama lifted sanctions. US withdrawal from deal. President Donald Trump, Barack Obama's successor, unilaterally pulled US out of nuclear deal despite UN certification of Iran was complying with all of the terms. Criticism of inadequate measures. Critics of deals USA as well as the Saudi Arabia and Israel argued that the agreement was inadequate to address the Iran growing influence in the region. Scope for rise of Iran. Critics of agreement argued that lifting the sanction would leave Iran economically more powerful and raise its geopolitical profile. So US need for new item in negotiation. The Trump administration also wanted to negotiate Iran's ballistic missile program. Breakdown of deals and returns of status quo. After JCPOA US reimbursed the sanction in Iran and invited Iran for talk. Iran on other side not just refused to talk with the Trump administration but also refused its nuclear program. Joe Biden during the campaign has promised to revive the nuclear deal, and indirect talk with Iran through European started immediately but no agreement was reached. A change was government in Iran made matters more complicated. Now the Iranian delegation appointment by the new government of President Ibrahim Raisi have come forward for talk, which has raised hopes for breakthrough, but there still are several thorny issues. Iran has substantially stepped up its nuclear activities and more than 1,000 more advanced centrifuge at its plant which can enrich the uranium. Iran has also started enriching the uranium to 20% purity or more, which is a technical step away from the weapon grade level. And Iran shuttles the IAEA oversight of its nuclear site but agreed to keep recording device in place that would allow the agency to continue monitor the plant. In recent month, Iran removed the IAEA camera from the factory in Karaj, and according to some reports, the advance Iran made in its nuclear program has reduced the current breakout time and to as little as the month from a year. So Joe Biden administration has said that it was the really to take necessary steps to revive the JCPOA, including the removing sanction, but it wants Iran to return to the agreement first. Iran should stop enriching uranium, ship out the highly enriched fuel as well as the centrifuge, open the nuclear site for international inspection. Iran also says it's ready to return to the deal, but it wants US to remove all the sanctions first and give assurance to Iran. As a result, the talk has reached a statement in Vienna. The challenge is find some common ground so that at least the process of reviving the deal begins. Now, the Golden Jubilee of Bangladesh Liberation War Operation Searchlight, the untold story. The Bangladesh Liberation was a bloody 9-month campaign has culminated in nation independent. It was a violent but the sum of the roots. So as the British Empire left the subcontinent as estimation, violence associated with the partition and 10 million to 15 million. Newly independent Pakistan comprised two separate geographical areas separated by over 1,000 miles of India terrain. While both regions include significance of Muslim population, West Pakistan was made up largely of Punjabi and Pashtuni, Sindhi, Baloch and smaller group. In contrast, population of East Pakistan become the modern day Bangladesh was predominantly ethnically Bengali and territory was formerly part of Indian region. Each of the factor, particularly the different in language and political and economic inequality, led groundwork Bangladesh. So Jinnah proclamation of Pakistan existed in Jinnah, Dhaka addressed two rallies. He declared Urdu as the language. He forgot that people of East Pakistan did not speak Urdu, they spoke Bangla. They ceased to Bangladesh language as well as Bangladesh Liberation War. Urdu only policy aimed at create a single identity of culturally distinct region united by the common region, Islam. More broadly, it aimed to consolidate the national identity of recent independent Pakistan. In the East Pakistan, the declaration was followed by a banning of Bengali books, song and poetry by Bengali noble and laureate Rabindranath Tagore. Bangla language as a medium of education, primarily mode of instruction, was also banned. All currency and official documents, including the postal stamp and railway tickets, were printed in Urdu. A major reason for this was significant economic disparity. So, West Pakistan controlled the country industry and commerce. East Pakistan was predominantly the supplier for raw material. West Pakistan deprived and coerced East Pakistan in more area. Jute and other crop cultivated in East Pakistan and hair prices determined in West Pakistan. Apples, grapes and garments produced in West Pakistan. Discrimination on the decent brand, one an enemy of Pakistan. Prosecution, arrest, incarceration and investment policy, including in educational infrastructure, consistent favored West Pakistan. East Pakistan had little access to the central government, which was located in West Pakistan. They were severely under-represented. West Pakistan politics leadership did not see Bengali a real Muslim. Both in politics and Bengali culture practice were considered and the efforts Islamic East Pakistani through Urdu and purify the Bengali culture from the Hindu influence resulted in massive non-violence. So Bhasha Andolan was a student and other activists launched a language movement called the Bhasha Andolan, which demanded Bangla be recognized as the state language of East Pakistan. Thousands of school and college was protested. Criminal Procedure Code Section 144, which was cracked down that followed, claimed several lives. In 1950 to 69, it was the galvanized a growing movement autonomy across the East Pakistan. Uprising, a mass uprising, was brutally but down by police and led to the imposition of martial law. Cyclone Bola, a devastating cyclone Bola, East Pakistan claims the lives and the indifferent response to West Pakistan. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman national election, a big turning point for the majority political party in East Pakistan, led to Bengali political Sheikh Mujibur Rahman won a landslide victory in the national election. The Pakistan leadership reluctant to accept the results, and it did not want to East Pakistan political party heading the federal government. The resulted start of civil disobedience movement launched Operation Searchlight as the demand for Bengali autonomy. The Pakistani government launched Operation Searchlight, a military operation crushed the emerging movement. According to journalist Roberts, it killed at least 7,000 civilians. And Bangladesh was declared liberation war. A birth of Bangladesh at midst of Pakistan unleashed the genocide in Bangladesh. Refugees streamlined into India. Pakistan atrocity increased. PM Indira Gandhi decided to take action and ordered India Army to launch the offensive against the Pakistan. So Indian Army captured Pak territory with the war and ending with the fall of Dhaka. So Pakistani military surrendered to the Indian Army, marking the Bangladesh Victory Day. Genocide becomes and all this. Next is India-Russia military alliance. India-Russia relations have witnessed time and ever-shifting nature. Nation interest relationship between two countries deepen with time, and the exceptional resilience built on the firm foundation, strategic national interest, synergy, geopolitics. In the post-Cold War, India has emerged as economic powerhouse and key to stakeholder in today global debates. Its climate change, international trade, or the menace of terrorism. Russia, with in global status and presence, win-win situation for deeper cooperation. This relation between the country are evolved, this time deepening the integration and widening the breadth. At the 28th meeting of India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission Military and Military Technical Cooperation, two sides concluded for agreement, contrast and protocol, while three document was signed and protocol signed. The two defense ministry agreement for manufacturing about 6 lakh assault rifle, joint venture UP India renewal agreement on military cooperation. India heavy military dependence. Some of the largest delivery of Russia to India include supply and license production T-90 tank and INS Vikramaditya, Kriva class steel and Mi-17 Sukhoi. Moving beyond buyer-seller relationship, now biggest defense supplier, and looking to move from licensed manufacturing to joint research. Big ticket military deals. S-400 trims long-range air defense missile system. Well, as a big deal, the defense trade between India and Russia since 15 billion. Russia sales with India 25% of arm. Indigenization plan of deal of Igla, Sukhoi, MiG. Utility helicopter in India was some of the deal in the negotiation were issues surrounded by the indigenization of plan, logistic exchange agreement on the broader military cooperation, and bilateral logistic support agreement, reciprocal exchange of logistic agreement, as well as navy to navy cooperation and access to Arctic. The give rise India access to Russia, facilitate in Arctic region, which seeking increase global activity, shipping routes open up, and in the bedrock India own investment in Russia. Expanding bilateral military exercise. The two sides are now looking at expanding format of bilateral exercise to make them more complex. more sophisticated for the exchange of experiences. Instead, exercise the impact of cyber drone technology. Addition, the two countries are also looking at the idea of expanding India-Russia cooperation in Central Asia and step possibility supplementary bilateral exercise and setting joint venture to speed up service, timely support, supply spare and support large inventory for Russia. Address Russia has met legislative change and its company has set up joint venture intergovernmental agreement competition in timely delivery with increased competition. France, Israel and other who are bag major deals and Russia is also focusing delivery the lifetime support co-production to realign with the Atmanirbhar Bharat self-sufficiency partnership reorienting in joint research and development cooperation and joint production. Today Russia and India are conducting joint research work more than 100 promising topics co-production of export in line with the object the two countries have been discussing cooperate in the India production explore trilateral framework. India Russia need to work together trilateral manner using the flexible framework for the Central Asia. This growing collaboration can be for stability and will bring more diversity. Leverage public diplomacy. The two countries are also need to be look at people power youth as well as a deeper link various field of including sport, culture and religious study. Tap into cultural congruence. Finally, Buddhist can be area where the both country can expand their interaction. So this was about some topics. Now we will discuss World Inequality Report after some time.